number one best thing, in my view, that President Trump ever did, and it was really good, it was really superb, was his visit to Beijing a few months ago. He really did the right thing. He finally, for a sliver of a moment in time, the United States acted properly. The president, the Oval Office representing his country, acted properly, acted diplomatically, acted and spoke with respect while on Chinese soil. Very good that he did that, isn't it? Very good that any president would do such a thing, because in the end, he knows which side the bread is buttered on. He knows everything that I said earlier. He knows there's no getting away from China's dominance. Now, yeah, we can, going to be all these headlines about things we're going to do. We're having a competition. We're going to block each other's company.
刚才这段评价可以说是难得的清醒时刻，一个长期批评中国的人竟然公开承认，川普访问北京时终于展现出了应有的外交风范，尊重对方，也看清现实，更明白中美之间根本不可能真正脱馊。只是短暂的理性很快就会被头条新闻和政治口号盖过去，企业封锁。地缘竞争以及对中国的各种负面叙事依旧会轮番登场。大家好，这里是华人视角频道。本期节目我们就来看看两位长期生活在中国的美国人如何从贸易合作、媒体宣传、社会安全和个人经历出发，拆解西方舆论中的中国想象。他们会讲到一通关于监控摄像头的投诉电话，一辆连续几天没有上锁却安然无恙的自行车，也会对比在中国与美国生活时截然不同的安全感。更值得注意的是，他们还会追问，如果一个社会让人时时担心冲突和枪击，这样的生活真的能称为自由吗？接下来的故事或许会让你重新思考什么才是真正的文明与自由。
Opposite, President Xi Jinping is going to go visit Trump in the United States, probably around the end of next month. So what do you think is the significance of these state visits back and forth between our countries? And is this a turning point? Is this positive? Even though other people are making it maligning these diplomatic visits?
This question relates very much back to our first question and my point about the fact that the machine of economic cooperation between the two countries is still a well-oiled machine happening behind the scenes. And I recognize any thinking human being with a brain recognizes that President Trump is intentionally a populist president who intentionally uses rhetoric to intentionally agitate and make his point. Therefore, he's very inflammatory. And we all get that, and we don't need to go into an analysis of his character or personality or anything like that. It's just that's Donald Trump. That's what he does. And he's milking it to the bone as president. Saying that, you have to look past a lot of that agitative narrative and rhetoric that he uses to some of the underlying decisions that the man actually makes. And in that respect, the man makes some very, very good decisions. And it's hard to argue that, for example, as China does China let unqualified people illegally en masse cross their border? No, China doesn't do that. And if China finds out you're here illegally, your visa expired, as soon as they find out, you need to exit the country. I think it's a $500 a day fine for up to 10 days, and you need to exit. And it's not an option, right? Okay, so countries have laws to protect their borders as well they should, and that would be to protect the existing American citizens. Trump's very pro that. It's great. So this is an example of a policy that I think the majority of Americans would agree with, regardless of President Trump's agitative and caustic and rhetorical way of agitating people on purpose to make his point. Okay. Having said all that, The number one best thing, in my view, that President Trump ever did, and it was really good, it was really superb, was his visit to Beijing a few months ago. He really did the right thing. He finally, for a sliver of a moment in time, the United States acted properly. The president, the Oval Office representing his country, acted properly, acted diplomatically, acted and spoke with respect while on Chinese soil. Very good that he did that, isn't it? Very good that any president would do such a thing, because in the end, he knows which side the bread is buttered on. He knows everything that I said earlier. He knows there's no getting away from China's dominance. Now, yeah, we can, going to be all these headlines about things we're going to do. We're having a competition. We're going to block each other's companies. Yeah, all that stuff's going to go on in the geopolitical sphere. But the true root of what needed to happen was the fundamental broad foundation of cooperation that needs to exist, and we need it to exist in a more diplomatic way. And for that beautiful slivering time of a few days in Beijing, President Trump did that. And even better, he did it with an entourage of the world's top American CEOs, the most important companies in the world. He sent the proper message. If the damn country's political strategies would just stay in line right there, that's what would be best. Now, it's not going to happen. It's not happening. But that was his diamond moment, the diamond moment of his presidency. He knew where he was going. He knew what soil he was stepping on, and he acted appropriately. And that was very presidential and proper and diplomatic. Very much unlike what Nancy Pelosi did when she visited Taiwan. And we know about that.
Well, I just want to talk about because we do have you here as this highly experienced person who has lived, you grew up in the United States and now you've lived in China for 25 years. I think one of the things that strikes a lot of people when they come to China, they expect the culture, they expect, the technology, but a lot of them are surprised by the safety. How would you describe your own personal safety and public security as compared to, say, your most recent trips to the United States?
Yeah, and I'm really glad you asked this question, and I'm going to go ahead and answer it by just telling you two contrasting stories. I want to root the two stories with the theme of what I want to say, because I'm never anti-American. What I am is I feel very, very bad for American people and what they're going through back there in that country. And I'll tell these two stories to explain. True freedom is not living in fear. Yeah, this is the key thing. And that could be levels of fear on a small level, sort of like not that unimportant level, or not too meaningful a level, but still an important level. Or it could be fear of something far worse. So our perception of freedom, our ability to be relaxed when we leave our house, that's freedom. Now, let's say I live in a society, and Italy is that society. I live in a society where petty theft is very, very high. Petty theft is very, very high in Italy. It's not a pleasant place, as the story of, travel to Italy and it's wonderful and the Italian people are wonderful, and no, it's not like that. When my father, you go on a tour to Italy and you go on a tour all around Rome, and the tour guides instruct you to put rubber bands around your wallets so that they're harder to be pickpocketed out of your pocket, and all kinds of things to protect your money, because there are thieves everywhere lurking around. Petty theft. Okay. And indeed, on my first trip, my dream trip to Italy, in 2005, I play jazz piano. As you know, I perform. And I went to the Umbria Jazz Festival in Perugia, and my parents joined me, and we traveled around. And again, on our last day, at Ostia Beach, famous tourist spot. The day 6 hours before I was heading to the airport, we go back to the car, and sure enough, Italia, Viva Italia! Our car was broken into, and all the bags were stolen, and including $1,000 of my money. I mean, just right up with the whole stereotype of petty theft in Italy. Okay, now, let's say you live in a society and you're in fear. You live in Italy and you're in fear of something that's quite common. What would that fear be? Fear of petty theft. Now, is that a horrible fear? No. It's a minor fear. Petty theft isn't going to ruin your life. It sure does inconvenience you, but knowing your purse might get stolen and you don't leave money in it, or credit cards. Knowing, your phone might be stolen, you don't leave it laying around. Okay, so you have a low level of fear, but it's annoying, but it's not life-threatening. Okay, fine. Now, take that. That's because Italy's in the middle. America's over here on the other extreme, as I'm about to explain. But then China over here is the only one that's completely civilized and super safe. Now, China wasn't like this 15 years ago. 15 years ago, there was more petty theft. We remember the guys walking around People's Square and all the Buxingjies, and they had their little scams going. But those guys are gone now. I don't quite get it. I think Chinese people have become very, very proud of their society. And when someone steals, everyone else looks at them and goes, "How could you steal from someone? What a horrible person you are. Don't steal from your fellow Chinese. We're all struggling. We're all working hard. Why would you steal from somebody else? What a terrible person you are." I mean, it's a persecution of Catholic guilt, right? Really. I think that's kind of what's developed here in China, because now even petty theft is like 90% gone. Okay. And so now my second part of the story here in China.
这期节目围绕一个始终牵动世界的议题展开，那就是中美关系以及两国普通人究竟应该如何看待彼此的社会。节目中的两位嘉宾，一个在美国长大，一个在中国生活了20多年，他们没有停留在外交辞令和新闻标题上，而是从贸易往来、日常安全、社会秩序和信息传播这些具体层面讲述了自己亲身经历的观察。这样的讨论未必能够代表所有人的经验，却提醒我们理解一个国家不能只靠远方的想象，更不能只靠反复播放的单一叙事。节目首先谈到的是中美之间一种经常被忽略的现实，即使两国在政治和舆论场上不断出现摩擦，企业、商会、贸易机构和普通从业者之间的合作仍然每天发生。货物在两国之间流动，服务和技术持续交换，成千上万的家庭、公司和行业都在这种往来中获得利益。换句话说，台面上的冲突并没有抹去台面下真实存在的相互依赖。很多时候，新闻最关注的是谁又发表了强硬讲话，哪家企业被限制，哪项政策引发争议，却很少告诉我们那些没有登上头条的合作才是全球经济能够继续运转的重要基础。这并不意味着中美之间不存在分歧，也不意味着所有合作都能自动解决安全、制度、贸易和地缘政治问题。真正成熟的态度不是把一个国家描绘成完美无缺，也不是把另一个国家描述成一无是处，而是承认现实的复杂性。国家之间需要竞争，也需要沟通，需要维护自身利益，也需要避免把对方永久塑造成敌人。两国领导人的互访当然不会立刻消除所有矛盾，但外交接触至少能够保留对话的渠道，让误判和意外升级的风险降低。对于拥有巨大影响力的两个国家来说，能够坐下来谈本身就是一种负责任的选择。节目中反复出现的另一个关键词是自由。嘉宾用监控设备、社区投诉、警民沟通和公共安全等故事比较了自己在中国与美国的生活感受。他们认为自由不只是法律文本中的权利，也包括普通人走出家门时能不能感到安全，能不能在公共空间里放松生活，能不能相信发生问题之后会有人处理。当然，这些故事属于个人经验，不能简单推导出一个社会的全部面貌。任何国家都有不同地区、不同阶层和不同处境的人，也都有需要改进的地方。但这些具体经历仍然值得被听见，因为社会制度的价值最终要落到人们每天如何生活、如何工作、如何保护自己，以及如何获得尊严上。 安全和自由并不是只能二选一。一个真正值得追求的社会，既要保护公共安全，也要尊重个人权利；既要维护秩序，也要允许合理表达；既不能让暴力威胁普通人的生活，也不能以安全为理由无限扩大权力。节目中关于美国社会紧张感的描述，重点并不只是某一次冲突，而是人们在长期不确定性中形成的心理状态。当一个人在超市、街头、餐厅甚至驾车时都担心一句话、一个动作可能引发危险，那么即使他拥有表达意见的权利，也未必能够真正感到自在。这提醒我们，衡量自由不能只看人们能说什么，也要看人们是否敢于正常生活。节目还把矛头指向了媒体叙事和舆论操弄。一个人说话有知识、有逻辑、有专业头衔，并不代表他说的每一句话都是真的。一个观点被电视台、网络平台和名人不断重复，也不代表他就自动获得了事实依据。传播的危险往往不在于冥想荒谬的谎言，而在于那些包装的十分漂亮，听起来似乎无懈可击，却缺少证据和现场经验的说法。我们容易相信自己喜欢的人，也容易接受符合既有立场的信息，更容易把复杂问题压缩成好人和坏人的故事。可一旦这样做，我们就不再是在了解世界，而是在寻找能够证明自己原有判断的材料。所以节目最后给出的建议其实非常朴素，却也最难做到，那就是使用常识，主动寻找真正了解情况的人。想知道一个地方的生活，不妨听听在那里长期生活的人；想判断一项政策的影响，就要看看它如何改变普通人的处境。面对重大新闻，则要比较不同来源，区分事实、推测、评论和情绪。亲身经历并不等于绝对真相，但它至少能够打破隔着屏幕形成的刻板印象。我们也应该保持警惕。任何一方的个人见闻都不能被包装成唯一答案。批评西方媒体的偏见，不代表可以无条件接受另一种宣传；肯定中国社会的某些成就，也不代表可以回避它仍然存在的问题。归根结底，中美关系真正的底色不只是领导人的讲话，也不只是媒体上的争论，更是两国人民能否减少误解，能否在竞争之外保留合作，能否把对彼此的想象重新放回真实生活中去检验。一个国家不应该只由他的对手来定义，也不应该只由他自己的宣传来定义。我们需要更多来自现场的声音，更多基于事实的比较，更多承认不确定性的讨论。只有当人们愿意暂时放下情绪，认真听见对方的生活经验，才有可能在分歧之中找到共同利益，在冲突之外看见合作的空间。这期内容也留给我们一个值得继续思考的问题：你所理解的自由，究竟是可以随时表达意见，还是能够安全、体面而不受恐惧支配的生活？你对中国和美国的看法来自亲身经历，来自身边人的讲述，还是主要来自媒体标题？欢迎把你的观察、经历和不同意见留在评论区，让讨论回到事实与经验本身。感谢收看本期节目，欢迎点赞订阅，继续关注更多精彩视频。